Ethan Cole wasn't the kind of man who believed in coincidences or fate. Everything in his life was measured, planned, and controlled, from board meetings to breakfast schedules. As the CEO of a rising tech empire, he lived in a world where mistakes cost millions and emotions were a luxury he could not afford. Since losing his wife 3 years ago, Ethan had buried himself in work, raising his daughter Lily with the same precision he ran his company. He told himself he was fine. Loneliness was easier to manage than heartbreak. But tonight, sitting in his car outside a dimly lit restaurant, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years: nervousness. His assistant, Julia, had insisted on setting him up on a blind date, saying he needed a personal reboot. He'd resisted at first, but after months of silent evenings and takeout dinners with cartoons playing in the background for Lily, he'd given in. He told himself it was just dinner. Nothing more. When he walked into the restaurant, he immediately regretted his decision. The place was far too warm, too cozy, filled with soft music and couples laughing over candlelight. It was the kind of place where people came to fall in love, not to test their luck. His eyes scanned the room until he saw her, a woman sitting at a corner table, nervously tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. She wore a simple blue dress, nothing extravagant, and yet there was a quiet grace about her. "Mr. Cole?" she asked, standing to greet him with a small, hopeful smile. Ethan hesitated. He wasn't ready for this, for someone looking at him like that, as though she wanted to know who he was beneath the title and success. He forced a polite nod, already planning his exit. "I think this might have been a mistake," he said flatly. Disappointment flickered in her eyes, though she quickly tried to hide it. I understand," she said softly, her voice barely audible over the gentle hum of the restaurant. Ethan turned toward the door, already feeling the weight of regret settle in his chest. He wasn't cruel, just scared. Scared of what it might mean to let someone in again. But as his hand reached for the door handle, a small, familiar voice from behind would soon stop him in his tracks. "Daddy, wait." The tiny voice carried across the restaurant like a bell, sweet, clear, and impossible to ignore. Ethan froze, his hand still hovering near the door. Every head in the room seemed to turn toward the little girl rushing toward him, her golden curls bouncing and her favorite unicorn backpack clutched to her chest. Lily, his daughter, his reason for everything. Ethan turned, embarrassed but smiling faintly. He hadn't wanted to bring her tonight, but when the babysitter canceled last minute, he'd had no choice. He'd planned to stay only long enough to be polite, maybe grab takeout, then head home. But now his 6-year-old stood in front of him with that serious little expression she used whenever she thought her father was being silly. "Daddy," she said again, tugging at his sleeve. "You didn't even say hi to her." Ethan sighed, crouching down to her level. "Sweetheart, I don't think this is a good idea." "But Daddy," Lily looked past him at the woman still sitting patiently at the table. "She's nice." The woman, Mia, smiled, though she seemed unsure of what to say. Instead, she bent down slightly, her voice warm and genuine. "Hi there. I like your unicorn shoes. They're very sparkly." Lily gasped softly, glancing at her shoes, then back at Mia. "Thank you. They light up too. Look." She stomped one foot proudly, the tiny lights flashing pink and purple. Mia laughed, an easy, melodic sound that caught Ethan off guard. It was the kind of laugh he hadn't heard in his house for far too long. Mia looked at Ethan, her smile gentle but confident. "You don't have to stay if you don't want to," she said softly. "But maybe we can at least have dessert. I think your daughter already approves." Ethan hesitated. Something about the moment, the way Lily was giggling, the warmth in Mia's eyes, disarmed him. It wasn't the uncomfortable formality he'd expected. It felt human, simple. Finally, he sighed and pulled out a chair. "All right," he muttered, trying to sound reluctant, though the faint curve of his lips betrayed him. Lily clapped her hands. "Yay, dinner with Daddy and the nice lady." As he sat down, Ethan realized something unusual was happening. He was smiling for real, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel like running. The dinner that followed unfolded like an unexpected melody, gentle, unforced, and strangely comforting. Ethan found himself relaxing, something he hadn't done in years. Lily chatted away happily between bites of macaroni and cheese, telling Mia all about her school, her favorite cartoons, and how her daddy always burned pancakes on Sundays. Mia listened with genuine delight, her laughter bubbling up often, her eyes sparkling with warmth that seemed to light up even Ethan's guarded expression. Ethan tried to keep the conversation light, steering it toward safe topics: work, travel, Lily's hobbies, but somehow, Mia's presence kept drawing him deeper. She didn't ask about his company or his net worth, like so many others had. Instead, she asked about him. What made him laugh? What kind of stories he read to Lily at bedtime? It was disarming. No one had asked him questions like that in a very long time. When Lily got tired and began to rest her head against his arm, Ethan realized hours had passed. The restaurant had grown quieter, the candles burning low, soft music drifting through the air. He looked across the table at Mia, and for a brief moment, it felt like time had slowed. There was something honest in her eyes, something that didn't want anything from him except sincerity. He cleared his throat awkwardly. "You know, I almost walked out before even saying hello." Mia smiled faintly, her tone playful yet tender. "I noticed, but I'm glad you didn't. I would have missed out on unicorn shoe fashion tips." Ethan chuckled quietly, glancing down at his sleeping daughter. "She's the real boss in my life," he admitted. "She's wonderful," Mia said softly. "And she clearly thinks the world of you." As they stepped out into the cool night, Ethan carried Lily in his arms, her little head resting on his shoulder. Mia walked beside him, her hands tucked into her coat pockets, smiling gently. Outside the restaurant, he paused, unsure of what to say. "Thank you for staying," he murmured. Mia looked at him, her breath visible in the chilly air. "Sometimes," she said quietly, "the best things happen when you stay instead of run." Ethan's heart stirred, a warmth he thought had died long ago. That night, as he tucked Lily into bed, he realized she hadn't just introduced him to a nice woman. She might have given him a second chance at love.